Welcome back to Part 3, Graveyard Keeper. We've got half a dozen things to do and all the time in the world to do it. So I'm pretty excited to just kind of hang out, and we'll just be cleaning things up, exploring a little bit, maybe get some iron, building up our base, our house. Yeah, so this guy day, is the Inquisitor day. He shows up on the hill. These characters are all more complicated than they initially appear. Oh, there he is. Yo, how's it going? Yeah, sure. He doesn't really take no for an answer. The ship of the dead is already overloaded. And there's a new one stuck in the shipyard. It is kind of odd that they go to all the trouble of coming out here, outside of the town, in order to do this, but it works out for me. We can talk next whatever day, or any other whatever day. Not now. So yeah, that's it. For today anyway, you can't do anything else. So you gotta wait another week for him to hang out. This is kind of important, but you don't know anything about it until you get later into the game, obviously. This is a marble quarry. Your closest one, you can't use it yet because I don't have the technology, but once I start getting marble, I'll be using that area. This is an old home. It's a story. It's a quest thing. So over here, this is iron ore. So I'm gonna need me some of that here eventually. I need to build up my base a little bit more, set up some stuff before I actually care about it. So for right now, just cleaning things up and picking up branches and picking up rocks. Just every little thing you do contributes. I do need to go down into the cellar to start that line of stuff. Oh, look, rocks. So these are the small stones that you can carry with you. I need to clean these up too eventually. So the Inquisitor, the guy I just met, he has authority over this area. So you can't build stuff on that area. You can't create your vineyard until after you've gotten to a certain level of his quests. But you can clean it up a little bit ahead of time. I still need to talk to what's-his-face about this. I'll get to that later. Everything here is... You can do a ton of stuff right away if you want to, but it's really best, I think it's best, to just kind of take it one piece at a time and just kind of enjoy it as you go. There's no sense of a hurry. Hey, look, it's Snake. Of course, you don't know that yet. Curse you, gate. So you need to actually talk to Snake. In order to do that, you need to get through this pile of craziness. And in order to do that, I need this stuff. This is another one of those small things that makes the game a little bit more problematic. Is keeping track of what you need to carry with you. Because you can't... There are other games that, as long as you've got stuff in your inventory, you can use it. But this is not one of those games. You have to carry stuff with you if you want to use it. So I need 10 wedges. I'm taking notes off to the side because this is the only way you can play this game. And you need 2 wooden planks. So those are different than the flitches, but that's a whole 2 planks. And I did the thing. And then 4 simple iron. And I think I have 1, 2, maybe 4 or 5 of those, because there's one over here, and then there's another one. Anyway, like I said, we're going to take our time. There's no rush. Snake, officially, once you start his quest line, he shows up on the beetle day, or the green day. But up until you start his quest line, he's there. He's in that spot every day. During the night. I think he only shows up at night. We're just cleaning stuff up, picking stuff up. So you can put trunks down here for right now. Eventually you will be able to put your distillery stuff here. So this is usually where I keep my press for like the juice press and the wine distillery stuff, and you can make ale here too. It's all good stuff. I've got I've got flour, but I don't have any dough yet. I need water in order to make dough. Water is a funny thing in this game. So you've got an infinite amount of it. You just go over to this well and you pick it up, basically. You don't have to have, like, it turns into a bucket. But it's free, right? It's close. It's just kind of annoying. And then, so the bucket turns into water. I really thought I had another way to do that. Yeah, so each bucket's worth 20 water. And then you turn this into dough, and then you put the dough in the fire. Of course, you need wood for the fire. I can make, yeah, there we go. So you can make multiples at the same time, and there are other things that you can do in other workshop or crafting stations like this, where you can kind of set it up to do a whole bunch of stuff, which will be more important later once you, oops, no, that's fine. So you notice that I had to put in the fire, I had to put in the fuel first. So it takes little small sticks like I've got, these guys, but it also takes coal, which is really what you want to be using eventually. It's just so much more efficient. I don't need any of this. So what I like to do, what I like to do is I will stash the things that I'm going to use around this station next to this station. So it's not terribly complicated. The average person would probably do the same. This will work by itself as long as it's got fuel, and then whenever it's done, it'll pop out along with the experience that you need. So you don't have to wait around to do it, which is great. Not having to wait is pretty nice. I need trees. Let's do some technology stuff. Nope. No. Okay, so here's what we need in order to get that moth for the fisherman dude. But we don't need that for a while. That's gonna be a ways away. This is not particularly important for a long time. This is the mushrooms. These poisonous mushrooms are pretty handy. So this is handy later, but you'll notice that it takes blue stuff, which we don't get for a bit. I need you and what is this? This? I already have... Oh wait, it's over here. That's right. I'm going kind of fast. I guess I could go through these. A lot of this is locked until you get the certain quests that open it. So this stuff down here, you're not gonna... Anything with a question mark, you're not gonna mess with until you get the quest for it, which... They do a decent job of opening them up early enough that you know what you're doing, more or less. But the anatomy and alchemy stuff is about the ability to take things out of, put things into bodies, and the potions that you can make to make the bodies better, which will be very, very important eventually if you want to maximize your gains on your graveyard. So that's all very good. And then you get the pieces, right? So, you know, skin can be turned into paper, which is important later. Bones and skulls and blood. Blood's very important for several things, for potions and stuff. You need all of these pieces for other crafting opportunities later. So it is important to get these, but these are not the first things that I mess with, because the body stuff, the chemistry, the alchemy, that happens once you unlock the laboratory and all that, and that's like 2 or 3 steps away from where we are right now. Theology is related to your church, so obviously this is all your church stuff, the inner workings of your church, which you can't deal with until you actually open the church. So there's other stuff you have to worry about first. And then the gravestones, the various things you can put in tie-ins to your graveyard, which is maybe not graves. So like you can put in lanterns or flagstones and prayer stations that give you the quality bonuses without having a body in there. So this is what you use to take up some of those extra locations that you couldn't put a body into. There's not enough space for it, right? So that's all good. Most importantly is the first time that you make one of these, like if you make a brand new marble cross, the first time you make a marble cross and you study it, you get a ton of these blue experience points, which is very, very important, like I was saying. Book writing is awesome. It is not something that I dealt with the first time basically at all until the very end of the game, because you have to at some point. But it is a really easy way to get a whole bunch of those blue points, the blue experience points. So this will be important later. Farming and nature, very good in general, just going around gathering stuff. This is how you learn to make wine. This is how you deal with, the juices and the apples and the farming stuff. Farming is the way to make money. Farming is your money path. And by the time you get a good farm set up and you've got a couple of zombies to run it for you, there is no amount of money that you won't have. It's pretty ridiculous. You go from being like dirt poor one day to being the richest person in the world the next. And that's part of my end game statement from earlier, is that once you get to that point, there's nothing you can't buy. There's no reason to basically do anything else because you've got all the money in the world. So that's great, but that's a later game thing. This smithing and building are very important early on, and that's where I'm probably going to be spending most of my time as we get into this. This is where you learn how to make all of your new tools, which make it easier to do all the normal stuff. This is where you learn to make all of the crafting bits that you need in order to make the other things. You also get bonuses. So, like for example, this woodcutter perk of Axeman. Instead of getting 1 log whenever you cut down a big tree, you get 2 or 3. Depending on how big the tree is. Normally, if it would give you 2, it will pop out 3, which is great. It's 1 less tree that you have to cut down. At the end of the game, when you've got zombies to do it, it's not important. But still, it's a really great thing to have early on. So this is where you're probably going to spend most of your thing. And then this is not a skill thing. This is just a list of the things that you've learned how to cook. So you unlock these as you go. Like I said, there's a handful of things that you need, but most of the time, I don't care. It's not worth messing with. So, we have spent all of our experience. Let's work on making some stuff. And then whenever I get tired, I go to bed, right? It's not complicated. It is the moon day, so I could go into town. And if I go over to the lighthouse, the astrologer is going to be there hanging out, ready to talk to me about his quest stuff. But I don't really care right now. I'm not messing with his stuff. So if it takes me another week before I get to him, it's not a big deal. The trees and the stones outside of your area will respawn eventually. The stuff inside of your area, like what I just cleared, that's not going to respawn because this is your spot. This is where you build stuff. So it'd be very inconvenient if you had a crafting station and then all of a sudden something popped up right in front of it where you couldn't get to it without clearing it out. It wouldn't be the end of the world, but it'd still be annoying. So it's just not worth it. Hey, look, there's my bread. So bread is kind of a funny thing. I like bread for various reasons. So you get 15 stamina for each one that you eat. But what's interesting is how you get there. So if I was able to grow wheat, theoretically, wheat to flour is 1-to-1 right now, and then flour to dough is 2-to-1. So for every 1 flour you put in, you get 2 dough, which is pretty nice. And then if you go over here, for every 2 pieces of dough, you get 2 pieces of bread. So that's a 1-to-1. But the point is, if you've got enough wheat, you can basically constantly be making bread, and it's not a terrible way to get stamina early on. Eventually, my best way to get stamina is the winery. The wine that you make is usually extremely good for stamina, and you get a ton of it because you just make way more than you need. So something on the oven. You've got areas. Every station, like an oven or a forge, anything that deals with fire, is going to have a tab for fuel. So you've got your sticks, which I have, firewood, which I haven't made yet, but I can make now if I make the crafting station, because I just unlocked the technology, and then coal, which is great. So if you look at, a stick gets you 20 points of heat, which, it's a unit, so whatever. 10 sticks gets you 20 points of heat. 10 coal gets you 160 points of heat. So there's a significant difference, and you usually want to go to coal, and it's not hard to find it once you know where it is. So I don't use firewood for almost anything. Once I get it, it's over. So this is how many units it takes to do what you're trying to do. So for every 2 pieces of bread, it takes 5 units of fire, and I've got 15 to play with. So I'm just going to have it make the 3 that I can make, and then I'm going to go to bed. I do have these stamina potions But I like to use those for kind of emergency situations where you need a bunch of it right away. There's no reason to rush this. Like I said, this is one of my favorite parts of this game, is that there's no reason to rush. There's no incentive to run around with your head cut off. You can just kind of hang out and do stuff and have fun with it, which is great. Okay, so what can I build? What do I need to build? What? Oh, I guess I was wrong. So there is an iron ore stockpile. The stone stockpile, I believe, will take stone or marble, but the iron ore stockpile, like this guy right here, will only take iron ore chunks. But you don't get that until you get to the quarry, which is way over on the other side of the map, and it's a pain in the butt to get there. So it's, anyway, you don't need that for a while. I do need a furnace. That will be very important. I do need an anvil. I can make one of those right now. I think I usually put one right here. That's one of the ones that goes away after a while, because there's it's pretty easy to make a better one. I've got one of these. I usually end up making 2 of these, but I don't have access to the wooden beams yet, so there's no sense in messing with it. Chopping spot, I do need some of these, or just one of these, realistically. That's another one that goes away eventually. Okay, that's probably good for now. So here's where I can make nails and iron, or simple iron parts, but I need iron ingots, which require iron ore and a forge, or a furnace, sorry. So I need stone right now. Let's get some stone. Luckily, we don't have to go very far. I really dig this music too. Is that enough? I keep hitting that button. I think that's enough. Let's take a log back with us too. Eventually these do fill up. So there's, I think it's like 10 maybe. You'll see it eventually. It fills up pretty fast, and then it it goes away pretty fast. Once you start making stuff, it's pretty easy to run through a full pallet of logs. I need 14. Oh, man. That's another thing about this game, the crafting system. Oh, I don't have technology for that. Is you don't know what stuff costs. There's no way to, like, look it up after the fact. So that blockage that I need to clear, if I hadn't written that down, I'd have to go back down there in order to figure out what I needed to do for that. Alright. You can rotate these. They only rotate one way, which is fine. I don't really care. I always put these... Let's do this. It will make little difference in the long term, because realistically that's all going to move eventually. So this is the same as your oven. It's got the same kind of system for fuel, and then you put in, your iron. You can either put in iron ore, which you get directly from the earth, or you can put in metal scrap, which you sometimes pick up from other things. I would like to make a trunk, but I need nails for that, don't I? I guess I'll get to it later. Let's Let's make some iron ore, or let's go mine some iron ore in the swamp thingy. Ta-da! First iron ores. For whatever reason, I don't think these little pieces of iron sticking out of the earth, I don't think those respawn. So there's some here, there's some way to the south of your graveyard, there's some to the far west, like the blacksmith was talking about, and then there's like an infinite supply in a couple of spaces in the mountains. And I think that's why these don't all respawn, is because they expect you to use the infinite supply once you get access to it. See, now I'm just doing this to do this. You stay there. I need this first. This is kind of an interesting thing. I expected them to do something with it, but you can't do anything with it. There's no way I can remove it. It's okay. Oh, well, thank you for telling me. Taking my logs home. Oh, shoot, it's nighttime. So, bats. Oh, no. Not enough. That's what I was talking about, that stamina that you need right away. So there are ways to avoid these guys, but it's kind of annoying. The bats come out at night. Slimes and bats, I think, are the only things you'll see in the overworld. There's a lot more complicated areas with bigger, more problematic monsters. But in the overworld where we are now, just the general map, you're not going to find anything too terribly complicated. And they only come out at night. Right. Let's make some firewood, I guess. Oh wait, I don't have a thing for that. I need 5 of those. So this is an example of what I was talking about before. You can set up your crafting station to do any amount of stuff, so that you just go up to it and you start working on it. Or if you have a zombie, you can just tell it to do this forever until you run out of crafting items. So right now I've only got these 4 logs. One of them is already taken by this queue. I could set this to infinite. I don't want to do that. I'm just going to work on it, because I only need the one. Inventory management. This guy. I cannot stick it over there. I think, yeah, just the one way. Like I said, this will all move later. This will get replaced by other stuff. So this is where you can make wedges, and this is where you make billets and flitches. I call them flitches. I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't know, but I end up calling them filches sometimes, and it's just unnecessary. Man, that eats up my stamina. Yeah. I have flowers. So many flowers. Alright, you take all of my firewood. And then you take all of my iron. Seriously? No. Oh. Can only make 7. Right. And then that'll just work by itself. That'll pop it out eventually. Right. And then once I get some of that, I can do some other stuff. So for right now, let's just go back to bed. Hey, look, more food. I think I'd like to get an iron set of items before I go on a coal raid, because you could basically spend a whole day just going up and getting the coal and coming back. Again, not like you're in a hurry, but just having that much usually lasts you a long time. You only need to make like 2 or 3 trips throughout the regular game, I'll call it, until you access the zombie stuff. So anyway, that's a good place to keep this. Try and keep these 30 minutes ish. So we'll pick up episode 4 next.